All right, today we're cracking open something really special. Think of it as a 2,000-year-old playbook, a personal training manual from a master mentor to his apprentice. And this isn't just a list of rules. No, it's a series of powerful, unforgettable images. A soldier, an athlete, a farmer, and each one teaches a vital lesson on how to live a life with real purpose and impact. So let's dive right in.
So here's the big question, right? How do you make a message from 2,000 years ago actually stick? How do you make it unforgettable? Well, you don't just read it, you have to see it. We're going to bring this ancient text to life with some really powerful mental pictures that'll help you not only remember these words, but more importantly, actually live them out.
So we open up with verse 1. I want you to picture this. You're standing in a really dry, barren place, just feeling totally drained. And then, all of a sudden, this waterfall of pure liquid light starts cascading down on you. We'll label it grace. You see, it's not about you trying to muscle up your own strength. It's about being filled, completely empowered by a source that's way beyond yourself. Now for verse 2. The whole scene shifts. We're at a high-stakes relay race. Imagine a glowing baton, and that baton is the truth, being passed from the mentor to the protege. But here's the thing. This is not just a two-person race. That baton gets passed again, and then again, creating this incredible chain of light that stretches across generations. This is all about legacy. It's about passing on what truly matters.
Okay, verses 3 and 4. This is where we meet our first archetype, the soldier. Picture a soldier completely locked in on a distant target. Now, all around them, there's this chaotic festival just raging, a total whirlwind of distractions and temptations. But the soldier? They don't even flinch. They remain completely unmoved because their focus is absolute and their mission is crystal clear.
Let's move to verse 5 and our second archetype, the athlete. Okay, so you see a sprinter, coiled and ready at the starting line. But look closer. Etched into the track itself, in glowing letters, are the rules of the race. See, the prize isn't just about being the fastest. It's about running with integrity. It's about honoring the game.
And for our final archetype, in verse 6, we have the farmer. Now, we're not at the big harvest festival yet. Not even close. We're right there in the field with a farmer whose hands are stained with dirt. And they're not looking at a huge, bountiful harvest. Nope. They're looking at the very first sprout, and they get the first taste. It's this intimate, immediate reward for all their patient hard work. Verse 7 is the pivot point. It's like the mentor is saying, okay, think about these pictures I just gave you. The soldier, the athlete, the farmer. Imagine a key turning a lock inside your mind. As it clicks, this brilliant light just floods out. This is so important. It's not just about hearing words. It's about seeing the truth in these images and letting it totally transform your understanding.
So after all those metaphors, verse 8 gives us the bedrock, the foundation of everything. Picture a massive, unshakable stone pillar rising up from the ground. It's the one thing everything else is built on. And carved right into it are the words, raised from the dead. This is the central, non-negotiable truth that gives all the other images their power and meaning.
Now, check this out. Verse 9 gives us this incredible contrast. On the one hand, you see a messenger in heavy iron chains, physically bound, totally restricted. But then, from within them, this powerful wave of golden light, the word of God, erupts and just shatters the chains. The point is so clear. You can imprison the messenger, but the message itself, it's absolutely unstoppable.
This brings us to the why in verse 10. Why go through all this? Visualize a person holding up this massive shield, just enduring a relentless barrage of fiery arrows. Why would they do that? Because right behind them, a group of people are making their way to a safe place, a refuge from all the chaos. The endurance isn't for them. It's not for personal glory. It's for the salvation of others.
Verses 11 through 13, man, these form the absolute core promises of this entire playbook. As I read them, I want you to imagine these words being etched permanently into a solid stone crest. This isn't temporary graffiti. It's an unchangeable declaration of truth. Then, in verse 14, we get a really critical warning. Imagine two people locked in a furious debate. They're building a wall between them, but it's made of crumbling blocks of sand. Just pointless, empty words. And as they argue, the very ground beneath the people listening starts to crack and collapse. Their words aren't just empty, they're actively destructive. So what's the alternative to that? Verse 15 gives us this brilliant image of a master craftsman. With a totally steady hand and a sharp, focused eye,
They're taking a beam of pure light, that's the word of truth, and they divide it with surgical precision. It's all about skill and care and having a deep, deep respect for the material you're working with. Verse 16 is all about making a decisive choice. Picture someone on a path and it forks. One way leads into this dark, tangled thicket of thorns labeled idle babblings. The other way, it leads to a clear, sunlit road. And the person doesn't even hesitate. They turn their back on the darkness and walk straight into the light. It is a deliberate, conscious rejection of what is harmful. In verse 17 explains exactly why that choice is so critical. It uses this really stark medical metaphor. Imagine a single dark cell appearing on a perfectly clean, pristine white surface. Then, with horrifying speed, it just multiplies, like a cancerous growth that corrupts every single thing it touches. That's the power of a destructive message. Verse 18 then gives us a very specific example. Visualize a signpost, and it's clearly marking the path to truth. But two shadowy figures are there, and they're twisting it, deliberately pointing people toward the edge of a cliff. And you see the tragic result. Followers, trusting that sign, are walking unknowingly right to their doom. But even in the middle of all that chaos, verse 19 offers this incredibly powerful reassurance. We see a massive, solid rock foundation that stands completely unshaken during a violent earthquake. And on its surface, a glowing seal appears, and it has two inscriptions. The first, "The Lord knows those who are his." That's a promise of security. And the second, "Let everyone who names the name of Christ depart from iniquity." And that's a call to responsibility. Verses 20 and 21 use another great household analogy. On one side, you see these common everyday vessels, clay pots, wooden bowls, stuff for ordinary use. But on the other side, you see these stunning vessels of gold and silver, the ones reserved for the most honorable occasions. And here's the crucial point. We are all vessels in this great house, and we get to choose what kind of vessel we're going to be. So, how do you actually become a vessel for honor? Well, the final verses, 22 through 26, they give us this clear, actionable checklist. It's basically a 5-step process for shaping your character. First, flee from destructive impulses. Second, actively pursue what is good. Third, avoid pointless fights. Fourth, cultivate a spirit of gentleness. And fifth, when you do have to correct someone, do it with humility. This is the art of becoming a masterpiece. And this last part brilliantly illustrates the ultimate goal of all of this. The final image of the playbook is a person, and their foot is caught in this nearly invisible snare. For a moment, they're completely trapped, but then they have this moment of insight, a flash of pure understanding. They see the trap for what it really is, and with this newfound clarity, they just reach down, snap the trap, and break free. So that brings us to the end of this incredibly visual playbook. I mean, from the soldier to the farmer, from the craftsman to the vessel, it's a manual for focused, powerful, intentional living. And it leaves us with one final, very personal question. What snare in your own life will you see with new eyes this week? And what are you going to do to break free?